of Scott Brown. Unfortunately, I was busy with dinner time, but it was a nice intern, and he just wanted 5 minutes of my time to ask me a few questions. I said that they could, call me back at another time, but I think Scott Brown last year, he had a successful ad campaign that really helped him out. It was that great ad that everyone looked at and all of a sudden jumped on the bandwagon, and it gave him full force momentum, and he ended up winning.
Yep.
You notice that the key word was nice intern. Once again, she has to spin it that way. Yes, of course. But did you know that there's another United States Senator running, Maurice DeFranco? Nobody's been talking about her.
Haven't even heard of her.
Who is she?
Who is she? Well, she's a Democrat, and she says she's a bold leader, dedicated fighter, and
Is she competing for the Democratic nomination against Elizabeth Warren?
Absolutely.
She is.
Wow.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. The Democrats have a choice.
Well, we have many choices. I think this field, as far as the Senate, we have some real good, solid candidates, unlike some other higher offices.
Wow.
Well, that's interesting.
I think
That's
the
interesting.
Bears,
He's a little
getting
fired
ready
up
to
today.
growl.
He's growling.
I think that maybe since we went out to dinner Saturday night with our significant others, our wonderful husband, my husband Bill, I'll give him a plug, and your wonderful wife Dawn, I think maybe the bear needs to take me out to lunch today, because I think you're causing him to get a little angry, maybe.
Uh-oh.
Hanging out with
Uh-oh.
the Republican a little too much. Right,
You know
Bear?
what it is, Gladys? The bears are coming out of their dens this time of the
Oh,
year.
that's
It
it.
was the weather.
Coming out of
It's the weather.
hibernation. Coming out of
we're
hibernation.
Coming out of hibernation. The whole thing is, I go back to one of Peter Lucas's columns, where he kind of, I think, hit it right on the nose, where the Republicans have shot themselves in the foot. These Republican candidates are shooting at each other, and what's coming out of it? A lot of rhetoric, a lot of nothing, and no way to solve problems. As far as our good president, I've seen almost the same thing. He tells us exactly what we want to hear. Like, what happened to the pipeline? What happened to the oil coming down from Canada going to Texas? Why was that stopped? And don't tell me it's for conservation purposes. That he spun the Democrats and the Republicans just recently to defeat it.
Why are you so upset about this, George? You know well and good. You can
because
pay
I'm looking-
$15 a gallon for gas.
I don't want to.
Listen, it's going to save the world if we pay $15 a gallon gas eventually.
not gonna
That's
save
the
my
policy. No?
It's going to put me in a poorhouse. I'm going to have to go on welfare. So all you people out there that are taxpayers, you're going to have to support me. So you might as well start from now.
Right. Well, I think that's unfortunately, I look at the time that we're in, and when I hear pipeline, number one, I think it can serve the country well, but I look at it as the people that they can employ.
Look what's going to happen. The Canadians are going to build a pipeline to the West Coast so that they can put it on barges and boats and take it to China. What does that tell you? China's going to refine it and send it back to us at double the price. That's ridiculous. Where are we going in this country?
Well, I think we're making a mess of things. It's clear that's the answer. And what we're talking about is if anyone in Washington, D.C. could have a civil conversation anymore to move. See, you know what? Moderacy has become a bad word all of a sudden. It's become this, that all of a sudden you cannot, if you're a moderate or you welcome compromise, that's a bad thing. It's this all-in or all-out attitude that's really affecting not only Washington, D.C., but across the country. Great compromises move the country forward. When you compromise, you take steps forward. I might not agree with you 100%. I might not even agree with you remotely. But if we can find some middle ground on an issue, we can move the country forward.
That's the problem. We're looking for middle ground.
We should be. We should be looking for middle ground. We don't.
Why should we look for middle ground? Why don't we look at the top of the mountain?
Yeah.
This is baloney. We're going to bend over for everybody? Unheard of. Look at this situation with Iran. We're sitting back and we're saying, oh, we have to sit down and we have to, fix the problem diplomatically. No, let's bomb them back into the Stone Age and see what happens.
Well, I think that's certainly one. I certainly think that's one approach.
Yeah,
But
like that
I would say this. I would say this, that this is one time where oil prices are rising due to only one thing, and that's a threat. That's a threat to shut down the Straits of Hormuz by Iran. So I think then people say, well, the president has no control over the rising cost of gas prices. It's wrong, because the full might of the United States Navy over there saying, all right, go ahead and try and shut us down, would be enough of a deterrent, in my opinion, for them not, and then you wouldn't have any rise in gas prices. So this is all artificial. This is all speculation.
Well, Bob, I
Meanwhile,
agree.
you might want to bomb
he's a
them.
Navy guy.
That's one approach. But you got a commander-in-chief that has absolutely no military experience, that wouldn't even have a remote clue as to really how it feels to be involved in the military. But Bob, before we go too far off the beaten path, you've got something, Bob, that you would like to mention in regards from the Lowell Veterans Council. There's a new thing that's coming up.
Ground, but I'll go there.
common ground.
That
Okay.
was getting kind of heated with the beer. What's coming up on March 30th is called a conference, a veterans conference.
Yep.
And what we're going to deal with is hunger and homelessness among veterans, and there's a lot of it. I'm sure that when you drive along the VFW highway and you cross the Bridge Street Bridge, you can look to your right and your left and you see the tent people down here.
Yep.
And a lot of these veterans don't want to be helped. You know, they have issues and they don't want to be part of society, so they isolate themselves. And that's all well and good. But on this particular day, we're going to discuss all of those issues. We're going to discuss these particular people and how we can help them, you know, even in their isolation, among many other things. We're going to discuss, as you were speaking about, or we were speaking about earlier, spouses and children of deceased veterans and what their rights are under the VA and all of that sort of thing. So if you want to mark your calendar, it's going to be held at the Inn and Conference Center. It's run by the university here in Lowell, and they're one of the co-sponsors of this event. So if you're a veteran, or if you're interested in veterans, mark your calendar for March 30th. 8:30 a.m. is registration, and at 1 p.m. we'll have a luncheon, and we have all of these little mini conferences in between. It'll be a lot of information.
Sounds very informative. Sounds like a great program. And if anyone has any questions or they have any comments about anything that we've been talking about here on WCAP, I encourage you to call in at 978-454-4980. George, Bear,
Yes.
anything else you'd like to say about Iran? Besides, I mean, listen, there's a lot of people that feel the same way. That why are we being held hostage by this foreign country? But it goes back to even more a bigger problem.
That's the mistake. We're not being held hostage.
We are if our
Okay.
president doesn't want to take any action.
Well, that's why we should take a good hard look at all the candidates and find one that at least will take some initiative and straighten the thing out.
Can you imagine if the Northeast had a lot colder winter and we were buying a lot more home heating oil? Can you imagine how
Yes.
much more of an issue that this would be?
Absolutely. And why can't we have the line coming in from Canada to Texas?
Because our president has decided, you know, again, you talk about whether you want health care or you don't want health care.
I don't want to talk about health care.
No, but it's an example, though. It's an example. Of course, most Democrats don't want to talk about it, but it was something that was jammed down the American people's throat. It wasn't voted upon and agreed upon by the United States Congress. It was a tricky way of jamming something down our throat against our will. It wasn't an agreed upon thing. Now, do I think that there's a problem with health care in this country? No question. Is it too expensive? No question. But is this the alternative? I mean, I'm paying I'm paying right now more for health care than I've ever paid. And this program's been in place for well over a year now. Where's my free health care?
Okay.
Where is it?
Canada.
Exactly. And I'm not moving to Canada, but I'm going to stay here and fight for the United States of America. So, Stacy.
Well, no, that's, you have to take a look at their medical.
You do.
And they have a pretty good system up there.
They do and they don't. I'm going to give you a story, a personal story. My father's originally from Canada. Okay, he came down when he was 16 years old, applied for his citizenship, and became a United States citizen. His brother, he has other brothers, but one of his brothers a couple years younger than him, had a health issue. They both had a couple years ago. They had to have a stent put in for their heart. My father diagnosed, John, you need a stent for your heart. He went in the next day, got diagnosed. Within a couple days, he was in the hospital, was treated, had the operation, and he was done. My uncle, same diagnosis in Canada, waited 6 months to get a stent. So don't tell me socialized medicine is a better thing than what we have here.
Well, I'll tell you, I have a daughter that lives in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
Socialized medicine, Northern Ireland, and she swears by it. She's had 2 medical issues since she's been over there, and at no time did she wait for any medical service. I think it's determined by the doctor whether or not it's critical care
Exactly.
at the moment,
Exactly.
or whether or not you can wait 4 or 5 months and take care of the critical care first, you know. I think to just paint socialized medicine with one brush would be a mistake. I think there's a lot to be said about it.
Well, there is a lot to be said about it, and that goes back to my point, is that it wasn't truly vetted out as to what it was a rush to get this thing pushed through. It wasn't a massive discussion. This is a discussion that needs to be taken seriously for years and years and years. And maybe you could take the Irish model, and you could look at the Irish model and see why it works so effectively. And then you look at the Canadian model, and you see where there are problems in level of service. You look at England. England's got socialized medicine. But you look, and what you do is you try to, listen, there's no embarrassment in copying someone else's program and making it better to suit your own needs. But the way this was done, and the fact that, you know, it's going to jack up your taxes through the nose, and that it was jammed down the throats of the American people, I don't think was the best way in order to get anything done, whether you want it to be health care or you want it to be anything else. And it goes back to our point of that we're at a time in this country where compromise seems to be a dirty word.
Leader is a dirty word.
Yeah.
If you're a leader, you're a leader, and you stand among leaders. If you're a subordinate, you stand with the subordinates. A leader does not step forward when his subordinates make an error and start yelling, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, which has been the case over the last couple of years.
Exactly.
That's not acceptable for our leader. It's not acceptable to me for our leader. I learned in Management 101 when I was a young man that you never speak against your employees in public. You never do that. You bring your employees in and you speak to them.
Yeah. Those
military personnel, if they made a mistake, the big if, should have been spoken to at that level. Never should have became a world issue, and it was. It was blown out of proportion. And as far as that pipeline...
Well, explain us a little bit about the issue for people that are listening here to this program, the issue that you're referring to about the military and President Obama and things being blown out of proportion.
I just think it was something that should have been held on the... I can't imagine in my mind as a veteran, and you're a veteran, and the Bear's a veteran, that any military person would take a holy book and intentionally burn it, knowing it would do it, right? Create this problem that it's created. Would it create the same problem if they burned the Christian Bible?
No, it wouldn't have.
No, it would be a very small event that somebody had the freedom of speech in our country, and you have the freedom, you can take that beautiful flag on the wall that we're looking at here, and you can burn it, because we give you the right to do that as veterans. Okay, but we should not be apologizing for our employees. We should be correcting them if correction is necessary.
Well, I
but don't forget they were using that book to send messages back and forth. So they were using it for a specific purpose to undermine our troops over there. I feel very strongly about it.
I do too, and maybe this is something that we can talk about in future weeks to come. Bob, I want to thank you for joining us today. Stacy, the radio goddess, George the Bear, I want to thank you very much, and I also want to thank our sponsors who are kind enough to sponsor the JMac and the Bear Show. That's Sal's Pizza, Salvatore's Restaurant, Riverwalk Properties, Pentucket Medical Associates, located at lovely Riverwalk Properties in Lawrence, Mass, Elite Body Therapy, Salon Nicole, and, of course, my good friend John Dakota and his Center Ice Pub. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you and thank you for joining us. It's the JMac and the Bear Show every Friday from 11 a.m. to noontime on WCAP 980, where everybody gets it.